What's going on, Leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I'm the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome, and as always, I'm joined by the Gotham Knight, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce, and today we are in the Hall of Spoilers to talk a little bit about Venom, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about Venom starring Tom Hardy, DeepBoyce.
Yeah, that completely changed everyone's mind about a solo Venom movie, including yours truly, HazyRome, who wasn't a very big fan of Venom. But
No,
I
sir.
was
No,
telling
sir.
him before.
That is not the truth.
I was telling him before, like, listen, you got to give it a chance. You never know what they may do. I mean, yeah, you don't have to like Venom, but he's come a long way.
Listen, everybody, DeepBoyce is a flat-out liar, okay? I was defending Venom. He hates Venom, okay? But I think we can both agree with Tom Hardy as Venom. That deserves a bong bong, DeepBoyce.
Bong, bong, double time, bong, bong.
Anyway, guys, we are here in the Hall of Spoilers. We are going to be naming some potential villains for Venom. Specifically, our top 5 villains we want to see appear in the movie. Because everybody's wondering who's going to appear to face off against Venom. Venom, essentially, you know, he's a Spider-Man character, but Venom doesn't really have his own rogues gallery, per se. I mean, Spider-Man has one of the grandest, biggest rogues galleries in comics. Maybe even the best. I mean, the only person I can think to rival him is probably Batman over at DC.
Yep.
But Venom, it's a little bit of a dicier situation, especially since Spider-Man, at least the rebooted Spider-Man starring Tom Holland, is relatively new.
Yeah.
So, what villains could appear in the Venom movie? Who's gonna face off against Venom and give him a challenge?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, before we get into the top 5, we're gonna start with some honorable mentions. DeepBoyce, take us out.
Yeah, honorable mention number 1 is going to be Man-Wolf, a.k.a. John Jameson, who's the son of J. Jonah Jameson. A lot of J's in those names right there.
That's very J. A lot of J's.
But if this movie takes more of a horror movie approach, like a horror comic approach, J. Jonah Jameson basically being a werewolf would maybe fit in to Eddie Brock with symbiote and maybe any other additional character that's some sort of monster like character. But again, Man-Wolf, being a werewolf, is a sympathetic character. He was an astronaut that got infected with something when I guess he crashed on the moon or some crazy nonsense, and he came back and he's afflicted with this. So, there's a tie to J. Jonah Jameson, but that would also make it hard because maybe they're saving that character for the Spider-Man movies. But, they could rework that in every way they want, especially they need to rework that name. Man-Wolf is not the best name.
I mean, you're not wrong about that. But, I mean, you mentioned something of importance that's going to kind of take us through this top 5 list, and that's the rumor that Venom's going to be kind of like an action, horror, sci-fi flick. So we don't know for sure yet because nothing's been said officially. That's based on some casting news that was found on a website by the name of My Entertainment World. So it's not confirmed, but Man-Wolf would definitely fit into that type of genre. But next up, DeepBoyce, you got another one that you named in particular. I had no idea about this person.
Yes.
But DeepBoyce enlightened me, man. Who is it?
There is a character named Carrion. Or carrion. It's sort of like the, I guess, actual carrion, birds that feed on things that are already dead, like vultures, for example. And, he's like a 90s era character. He came about from Miles Warren, who is the Jackal, who could also be in consideration for any of these movies or maybe even the Tom Holland movies. But not to get into too much, he was created. He's basically just like a mindless creature that is, strong or comparably strong to Venom and durable. And I think the cool thing about him is not only his look, but he has this power that he can decay living matter. So just kind of have this weird kind of crazy monster that can kind of kill people with a touch. Like they just start like decaying. He doesn't kill them or like, chop them up, but he just like makes them rot. That's just kind of, it's very horror-esque and will maybe work well. But it's not a character that people very much know, and it's tied again to the Jackal, which is a character that I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, the Jackal. So we'll see.
And last but not least, to tie up the honorable mention. I'm going to name these two characters together, even though obviously they're separate people. But Black Cat and Silver Sable. So we know Sony's trying to start their own Spider-Man cinematic universe, or Marvel's Spider-Man cinematic universe. I don't know what they're calling it. Yeah. But they've already... I have no idea. But they've already confirmed that they're going to have Black Cat and Silver Sable appear in those movies. I don't know if it's separate films or in a film together. That wasn't immediately clear. Yeah. But essentially... You know, I'm not saying that they're going to be, you know, the main antagonist of the movie, potentially, of the Venom movie. Yeah. But maybe they could appear, you know, as cameos in order to open up the universe and to kind of start things off. Silver Sable's a mercenary, man. I mean, what better job for a mercenary than to hunt down an alien symbiote? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely.
And with Black Cat, I mean, who knows what her motivations could be, but I do know she's a damn thief. And if Brock, you know, for example, if Brock is, maybe it's seen that he stole the symbiote from, you know, a lab or something like that, why not have Black Cat be someone who was interested in stealing the Venom symbiote herself? Yeah. And that maybe puts them at odds.
And another quick thing, as of late, I mean, I don't know if things have changed, but she was, I guess, the head mob boss in New York, even over the Kingpin in Marvel Comics. So, you know, they could also kind of take that angle as well.
That's true. That's true, man. But without further ado, let us get into our top 5 Marvel characters who could be villains in the Venom solo movie. At number 5,
yes,
we're pulling Chameleon right out of our asses.
Yeah, he goes by the name Dimitri Smerdyakov.
That's Sounds like some vodka right there. Smerdyakov.
Dimitri Smerdyakov. He was a character that I believe was in the animated series, Spider-Man animated series.
Of the 90s.
And, you know, he's a villain that people don't really think about right away when they think of Spider-Man or Venom or any of these characters. But just him having the ability of being, I guess, a master of disguise. And you can kind of twist and turn and you know, change a lot of aspects of his character to make him more of a threat, to kind of change his motivations, to make him more than just a petty thief. There's a lot available there. And there isn't really... any character in any of these superhero movies that's like that at all. That's you know, a character that can change appearances or is more of a cerebral type of character. And obviously, you know, it sounds maybe somewhat analogous to Mysterio, but let's be honest, I think Mysterio is off limits for this Venom movie. He would most likely be in the Spider-Man movies.
Definitely. And that's the thing. That's kind of like the key to this list that we have here is what villains are least likely to appear in a Spider-Man movie. And, you know, Marvel has a plethora of characters, but Sony has an even smaller group of characters because they only have Spider-Man characters. But you don't want to use a villain that Spider-Man is going to face off against Venom. You know, so Chameleon, I think, fits that bill. Also, interestingly enough, he's actually the half-brother of Kraven the Hunter. Oh. So there's that connection, too, and you could maybe even allude to Kraven the Hunter's existence if you want to tie those together and if you want to use Kraven the Hunter for the movies.
Nice.
There have been some rumors that they actually want to use Kraven the Hunter for the Spider-Man movies, but we'll see, man.
Nice.
Anyway, at number 4, we've got Alistair Smythe, man. Perfect scientific character to use in the movies because depending on what origin you use for the Venom symbiote, whether he's an alien or whether he's created, I've seen both origin stories told for Venom. At the end of the day, a scientist is gonna want to study the symbiote. Yeah. It's gonna want to capitalize on the amazing abilities the symbiote can bestow, and there's no other devious lab tech or lab worker that I can think of that's more devious than Alistair Smythe. But he's not as, you know, popular as, you know, an Oscorp person like, you know, Norman Osborn or something like that.
Correct.
So I feel like Alistair Smythe, who's the son of a Spider-Man enemy, Spencer Smythe, would work well as a kind of intelligent adversary if Venom were to have one. Yeah. You know, somebody who's an expert. I mean, he's an expert in like robotics, cybernetics, and genetics, and, you know, genes, Venom symbiote. You're trying to, you know, have some bioorganic improvements to humans and maybe even weaponize that, and I think Alistair Smythe 100% fits that bill.
Yeah, and I think he'd also be recognizable to our generation. Yes. I think anyone that watched Spider-Man the animated series is going to remember that weird-looking dude with the things coming out his shoulders. They put him in the movie. So
they gave him some whack shoulder cannons or something like that. I mean, he doesn't need to necessarily have that genetic that genetic manipulation, I guess he did to himself to come out like that. But I mean, probably the thing that he's most famous for is the Spider Slayers. They're like these robots that essentially built to kill Spider-Man or capture him.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, aesthetically, that could be a cool choice to see, you know, Venom go up against these like robotic spiders. That would be a very interesting route to go with.
Absolutely.
But anyway, DeepBoyce, hit us with number 3.
Number 3 is Lonnie Lincoln, aka Tombstone, who is a prominent figure in the New York crime scene in Marvel Comics. I mean, this is not he's not only a Spider-Man villain, but he's a Daredevil villain, Luke Cage Iron Fist villain, Moon Knight villain, and just the fact that he's in New York,
right?
He could very well be a villain for Venom. And part of the reason we put him on this list is because he adds the possibility of having, I guess, a crime lord or a crime boss to kind of pit against Eddie Brock or Venom, depending on what origin story they go with. I mean, he could either just be in debt to Tombstone, or maybe, you know, Tombstone is in the weapons manufacturing business like a lot of, you know, some of these other villains have gotten into after what happened in the Avengers, where all this like alien technology was starting to pop up on Earth. It kind of created a black market as well. And then, of course, obviously the symbiote itself could be an asset not just to corporations or scientists, but it could be, you know, maybe terrorists or other countries that, you know, could be vying for this symbiote. So maybe Tombstone could see profit in that.
That's a good point, man. And not only that, but Lonnie Lincoln, you know, he kind of has like these artificial powers that kind of make him like you know, super strong. And I think to a certain extent he could resist like physical injury. So, you know, in addition to being like this mob boss character who has, you know, henchmen that Venom could essentially rip to shreds on the way to fighting Tombstone, Tombstone himself could become, you know, a worthy physical adversary for Tom Hardy's Venom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But next up at number 2, and this is where these are, you know, we really like these top two people we're gonna go and name, especially if you're thinking of the rumored horror genre that we're going for with the Venom movie, and that is Dr. Morbius, okay? Yep. Dr. Michael Morbius. So, once again, Spider-Man, the animated series of the 90s. Morbius is a character who appeared there as a sort of vampiric, kind of like a fallen good guy that you know, had a bad thing happen to him, essentially. But essentially, he's a vampiric character who, you know, was a victim of a biochemical experiment that essentially made him seek out plasma and blood. Yeah. So Morbius, I mean, a vampire, a vampire type character mixed with Tom Hardy, mixed with, you know, the symbiotes of Spider-Man lore, with the beauty and the craziness that is Marvel Comics, and an action, you know, approach. I think that could be a really cool, even if they went for like kind of like a noir type film, I think that could be a really cool way, a really cool direction to go in. And, you know, Morbius, similar to Brock, you know, they're not necessarily bad guys definitively, but they've had, you know, bad things happen to them, and they've made some questionable choices as a result.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
so I feel like they could be, you know, mirror images of each other in a way.
Yeah. And part of the reason why Hazy came up with this idea to have him on the list, and I totally agree. But Hazy was super excited because if they have Morbius in this film, that opens up the possibility of Wesley Snipes coming back as Blade to also be in a cameo appearance, at least. I mean, hey.
Once again, this video has proven that DeepBoyce is a flat-out liar, people. Okay. He's trying to trap me too and have y'all be all those Blade fans that want Wesley Snipes back. He's trying to have y'all mad at me, okay? Because I don't want Wesley Snipes to be Blade anymore, okay? Keep Blade out of this, okay? We got Tom Hardy. We don't need Wesley Snipes, okay? But Michael Morbius is our number 2.
Absolutely.
But number 1, DeepBoyce.
I mean,
this everyone has to know this had to be our number 1. DeepBoyce, let them know.
Number 1 is Cletus Cassidy. Carnage, or Cletus Cassidy and the symbiote together forming Carnage. I mean, this is really the most obvious pick, to have as an antagonist to Venom. I mean, who is more deranged, more psychotic than Venom, but Carnage? And I mean, it's it would be a dope thing to see in a movie. Have both those characters go up against each other. And I mean, we could be here all day talking about why Carnage should be in this movie, should be the antagonist, or should be, who faces off against Eddie Brock, because you have the possibility of Eddie Brock being someone who is a reformed criminal or villain, or someone that's trying to change his ways, and he's trying to deal with this symbiote that he has on him. But then there's this force of nature, which Cletus Cassidy, who's a convicted serial killer, who now has just tremendous superpowers by being imbued with this even crazier symbiote. And I guess Eddie Brock could be the reluctant hero, or there's just endless possibilities as to what you can do when you match up the two of these characters. I mean, it's you're gonna print out money. Tom Hardy, you got Venom. I mean, you also got Carnage. It almost seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Carnage also, Cletus Cassidy, he gives in to the lust for blood that he has. Yeah. Especially with the Carnage symbiote. It's kind of like he gives into that primal desires that the symbiotes have the tendency of bringing out. Mm-hmm. And I think that as not just a physical antagonist but a mental one for Brock, is that Brock will inevitably be struggling with the carnal instincts that the Venom symbiote wants him to kind of embrace. Mm-hmm. And I think Carnage, as an example of what he could become if he did embrace that, would be a good direction to go thematically.
Yeah.
Because not just that, because of their similar powers. Let's say, Carnage is doing things that make it seem like Venom or Brock is doing them. And Brock is, let's say, getting framed for that. I mean, Carnage is a serial killer. What if, Carnage kills one of Brock's, someone Brock cares about? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a multitude of directions that you can go with a crazy, deranged character like Cletus Cassidy. And once again, that noir horror setting would work perfectly. Yeah. Would fit perfectly for Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah, and Carnage is also the offspring of Venom. Like, that's how he kind of came to be. I guess they were jail buddies or something. And then Venom came in to save, basically jailbreak Eddie Brock. And he left a little bit, I guess, of himself. And that turned into its own thing. And it latched onto Cletus Cassidy. So there's that connection there, because they were also cellmates, if they go with that angle. And apparently Eddie Brock would beat up Cletus Cassidy in the cell. So there's, maybe he was kind of responsible to, for further triggering and making him even more psychotic, or just making him, I guess, go way over the edge than he used to be. There's a potential very personal story to be told there.
Agreed, man. I think that's a good point. That's a really great point. But anyway, guys, what do you think of our top 5 list of characters that could appear in the Venom solo film? Are you excited for the Venom solo film? Let us know who you want to see in the movie. Let us know if you're excited to see Tom Hardy embrace the man that is Eddie Brock and become Venom. We are getting out of here, guys. Thank you guys for listening. If you like anything you heard today, if you want to join the Spectacular Spoiler League, which you should want to join. I mean, come on, guys. The membership is really easy. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button and drop us a like while you're at it, too. We'll see you guys in the next one. We're getting out of the Hall of Spoilers. Peace out.
Peace.